rising from the fire of slender. You are not born, you are not torn asunder, you are unwounded, you are unscathed. You make the world fragrant all the more. You shower flowers of love and affection on way to your goal.
Ripping you apart, no one can crush you, nor injure your womanhood. Storm will pass by, you will emerge unarmed, unblemished, unlike the mighty Everest.
Look around, how the gutsy waves carry along bones and skeletons of the tormentors. No more shedding of tears, the auspicious hour has dawned. Come along, let's join hands and relish the glorious hour.
The time that stands changed, the air and water changed. No more desperation abounds. No one is helpless anymore. In torture and pain, no one weeps and sobs under the veil. We have rights from birth till death. None can snatch away. Stop trembling at the hint of an eye.
The energy of her inner self is no longer dormant. Flesh and blood, mind and heart are all alert. The sun of confidence has risen in her. See how the face dazzles. See how the sky, like heart, splashes with love. No one is meager here. Like the feeble creeper, don't hang on support in darkness. Stand tall on your feet in broad daylight.
The strong feet now possess power of 100 lionesses. It is not the time to go through any more torment, any more distress. No one fills the cup with the poison of hatred. Come together, come along.
Keeping foot on hold and hand on hand, we will build heaven on earth, where voice of compression will glitter, and goodness and fair play will reign wherever we are. We are all dear, we are all one, we are all one, we are all one.
Rising from the fire of slander, you are not burned, you are not torn asunder, you are unwounded, you are unscathed. You make the world fragrant. You shower flowers of love and affection on the way to your goal. This is the essence of today's session, when at this hour of change, Women Forward International recognizes a kind of work on this earth that has brought joy and beauty, the two most important things in life, to people's everyday lives in every country. This session is part of the Skoll World Forum's Ecosystem Day and is wholly curated and hosted by Women Forward International. Take a moment, look at your clothes, the rug under your feet, the mug in your hands. Are you aware of the centuries of culture, traditions, and designs that have gone into creating these items? Or how much, how much of the money and recognition is given to women artisans whose subsistence relies on selling these creations? The global handicrafts market, as Rebecca Van Bergen points out in her article in Fortune magazine, and she's here with us today, was valued at $526 billion in 2017 and is estimated to be at $984 billion by 2023. There are as many as 300 million home-based workers around the globe. Today, our panelists will discuss viable solutions to the exploitation of hundreds of thousands of women working informally around the world with little protection. Together, we will explore how to best support them in using their skills to break the barriers that prevent their equal participation in their communities and economies. Our speakers come from a wide range of geographic backgrounds, from Jamaica to Afghanistan to France. And we will learn why artisanship is key to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you to our sponsors, including and especially the Roy A. Hunt Foundation, the Doris M. Carter Foundation, and the Hearts Path Foundation. Without further ado, I will pass the stage to our panelists. Each will introduce themselves and tell us what this inspiring work has meant to them. Then we will have a round of questions and finally open up the panel to our outside audience for Q&A. I'm going to start with Ruth Jenke, Executive Director of the Rosetown Foundation in Jamaica, and her colleague, Alfie Ramsey, Community Representative and participant in the Rosetown program in Jamaica and partners of Women Forward International. Ruth, the floor is yours. And I believe you're on mute, Ruth. Ruth, you might want to, you'll have to.
Sorry. Yes, I'm unmuted here now, but after it working perfectly a while ago, now, of course, my screen isn't coming up. Oh, here we go. Yes. I could just get this here. I'm sorry. I'm not able to get my screen. Here we go, slideshow. Everything was working perfectly before. All right, here we are. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth Janke. I'm Executive Director of the Rosetown Foundation. And as was mentioned, with me is my colleague, Alfie Ramsey, a member of the Rosetown community. What I will do, our program, I think, is a little different from many of the others, in that we are working with a group of community-based women to help to build their capacity. So just a little background on Rosetown. We are a small inner city community in the capital city of Kingston, which face a number of challenges. As we say, if there's any problem that you want to help, come to Rosetown, we have it. So whether it is poverty, poor education, crime and violence, gender-based violence, environmental degradation, we face all those problems. And the foundation has been working with the support of the Prince's Foundation out of the UK and many other donors to provide programs including education. We have a community farm, and we do have in our community a group of artisan potters, because the Rosetown community actually has one of the best clay, some of the best clay in Jamaica. So we support the potters in the community in terms of building their capacity and helping them to market their products. What is this particular project that we're looking at under this program? It's called 18 to 80, because as Althea was one of the first people who pointed out, most programs target specific groups of women, usually young women. And we have a lot of older women who are very interested in building their capacity. So the idea was to look at skills training and personal development for all these women. The concept was there, but then a visit to the UK last year made us get involved more closely with the Prince's Foundation, and as a result, Women Forward International, to look at particular areas of developing artisans amongst these women. We have now 25 women registered. The average age of these women is 45, but they range from 15 to 65. Almost all the women, all but one of the women, have children, average 4 children. And one of the challenges that they have is that many of them, 12 of them, did not finish school. So a lack of education affects their ability to generate income. And in fact, 5 of them have never worked. So some of them have done their own thing, whether through artisan areas or other short-term employment areas. What our program does is look at the personal development of the whole woman. So we do self-defense, a number of different areas. We bring in speakers and look at providing mentors that can help these women look at life in a different fashion. We also do business training and entrepreneurial assistance. In terms of the artisan work that we do, we identified a number of different areas, but we found that crochet was the area that a number of the women already had some experience in. And we saw that this was something that could, develop a niche area, a niche market, we could provide a way of them generating income through our network of outlets that could sell products specifically made and designed by the women of Rosetown. And we actually collaborate with a number of local artisans who are doing the training and providing the assistance to our women in that area. What are we looking at getting out of this? Certainly increase the independence among participants, having them be able to generate their own income, create groups that can work together or as individuals. This will, of course, reduce the likelihood of exploitation, because with this developed self-esteem and being able to generate income, that will contribute to their independence overall. And we look at all of this is to build a community, because the Rosetown Foundation, our mandate is to create opportunities for the residents to improve the quality of their lives. And this is our broad area of focus. So that's a quick introduction to Rosetown and our project. Myself and Alex, they will be happy to answer any questions in terms of the specific areas in which we're operating and the impact we're hoping to have on the women of Rosetown. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and thank you to your colleague as well, Althea. And I'm now going to turn to Talia Kennedy, Creative Director of Turquoise Mountain in Afghanistan, and her colleague, Marian Omar, the head of Turquoise Mountain's Design Center, collaborating with the carpet weavers in Kabul. Talia.
Thank you so much for having us here today. I'd like to give a quick introduction to Turquoise Mountain as a whole, and then Mariam is going to lend a little more light on our work with the carpet weavers in Afghanistan. We were founded in 2006 by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales with a core goal to regenerate historic areas and to work with heritage communities to safeguard and revitalise their artistic traditions. And for the first 10 years of our operation, we were based solely in Afghanistan. Here you can see the heart of Murad Khani, the old city of Kabul in which our operations began. Since then, we've expanded our programs from Afghanistan to Myanmar, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. And in all four of those countries where we continue our operations, we focus very much on our work with artisan communities, and in particular, working with women artisans, often working from home. And I wanted to focus really today on the 12,000 women weavers that we work with across the north of Afghanistan, mostly in Aceh and more recently in Bamiyan. We work very closely with a third-party agency, Label Step, to really develop the opportunities for the women weavers. We have very close connections with the producer companies, and we work with Label Step to ensure not only fair economic access to the markets for the women weavers, but also that their well-being is well taken into account, and that their working conditions reach international standards. We then have a program through which we connect these artisans to international markets. We ensure more returns to the artisans and their communities by knocking out middlemen who often take the majority share of the margins. And we ensure that we properly represent the quality of the product to international buyers on a global scale. And so the rugs that are made in Afghanistan are sold to luxury markets all across the globe, which obviously helps to then boost the economic impact for those communities. And really a key part of that is good design. That is design in terms of our program, design in terms of working with partners like Label Step, and the artistic side of design, which we showcase both commercially and through exhibitions. We really believe that good design opens up opportunities and enables equal access to global markets. And so I'd like to hand over now to Mariam, who's going to speak a little more directly about how that design process looks on the ground in Afghanistan.
Thank you, Talia. So the design center, role of the design center is basically to be in the middle of the two groups. One is the international market, the idea, the design, and then the other side is the weavers and the production. And design center is making sure that the process is done smoothly in terms of the creative input and making sure that the idea is translated well into the product that would be produced for that market. That's not the only program that we do at the Design Center. Another side of the Design Center programs are mainly focused on design education. This is to make sure that the young artisans that we teach in our institute also have the design capacity. Not only they can make the products, but also they can creatively design that, and that will give them independence to go and do their own lines and find their own markets, and finally be able to take care of the whole range of production from start to the end. One of the newest programs that we have is the Digital Design Center. That is because at the moment, the way that Afghanistan political situation is going, it restricts women to attend classes. So in order to make sure that both male and female artisans still continue to benefit from these programs, we are starting our digital programs that connects world's best designers, product designers, with the artisans that are learning to become the future best designers. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Talia and Miriam from Turquoise Mountain. I'm now going to turn to Rebecca Van Bergen, founder and executive director of NEST in New York, and a partner of Women Forwards on a special project with Sciences Po this year. Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm trying to share my screen, but mine was working before too, and now not showing up. Let me just, well, if I don't have slides, I don't have slides, but let me try one more thing.
We might be able to help out with that. Lori perhaps could share Rebecca's slides.
Maybe. Yes. I'm so sorry. If you can, for some reason, oh, there it is. No, I'm good. Thank you. It showed up. Are we good?
Yes.
Great. It's now, let's see, sorry about that. So my name is Rebecca Van Bergen. I'm the founder of an organization called NEST. We work with artisans and makers globally and in the United States with a focus on using artisanal skills as a way to generate economic opportunity, gender justice, and racial justice. And we do a whole range of things all related to the artisan economy. So we have this kind of schematic to kind of talk through kind of our core programs and efforts and the kind of partnerships we form to do it. At the very top, it says the Guild. We run an open access network for artisan businesses anywhere in the world that's free to join. And all of the resources we provide to artisanal businesses are free for them. And so as a nonprofit, we think it's really important that we're investing to help this sector grow with integrity. And so we also have a kind of parallel program in the United States called Makers United, which is focused on maker businesses within the US. And then from within this larger pool of artisanal businesses, we can do deeper and more in-depth programming. So we run an Artisan Accelerator program, which is an application-based program to get kind of more in-depth business development, consulting support for artisan businesses that we believe are kind of on the cusp of scale, either social change scale or kind of reaching and supporting more artisans within their communities. And then I think one of the things we might be better known for is at the very bottom of the screen where it says ethical handcrafted sourcing. This was kind of alluded to earlier. but most artisanal workers are home-based, and so they're often operating within the informal economy. And so while it's been so incredibly exciting, and I think our panel is really going to dig into this, that more and more brands and retailers are really interested in supporting artisanal labor. They're not, those workers aren't operating in a factory like brands and retailers are used to supporting. And so we worked with a whole group of amazing brands and retailers and the United Nations Office of Partnerships to build a kind of supply chain transparency system and a set of cohesive industry standards that brands could adopt to bring transparency outside of the four-wall factory into a home in a way that is conscientious of the fact that you're trying to bring visibility into someone's private home, and kind of understanding of the dynamics that result because of that type of labor. It carries a consumer-facing seal, which is at companies like Target and Pottery Barn, and rolling out to more. But I wanted to flag that program because I think like over the last 2 years, we've all become home-based workers. And so I think the importance of the artisanal economy and cottage industries and the lessons that cottage industry, largely led by BIPOC women all over the world for centuries, could bring to conversations around the future of work feel really, really imperative right now. And so we're super excited to dig into that. We are nonprofits, we raise philanthropy, but we really work closely with brands and retailers on the integration of artisans into their supply chain. And we believe that the kind of growing interest in that is going to yield kind of the most tremendous results for makers globally. We have partners in 120 countries. It's roughly about 1,500. I think it's actually more like now 1,800 artisan and maker small and micro businesses within our network, reaching about 250,000 individual artisans globally. And we're so excited to be part of this incredible panel. Thank you to Women Forward for putting this together and all of the great work being done. So we're, I think, moving on to the panel portion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca Van Bergen from Nest. And last but not least, we will turn to the scholarly team from the Paris Institute of Political Studies, known as Sciences Po. This team has been paired by Women Forward International with Rebecca and Nest on a project this year that they will share now. Let me turn the floor over to Chin Miao and Sreya Nath.
Hello, everyone. I am Shreya Nath, Master's in International Development student at Sciences Po Paris, and I'm representing the scholarly team of Sciences Po with Shin. It is a real honor to be here and talk about our research work in the European Union, as well as our findings from the fieldwork we conducted in Italy. In the next slide, we will be saying that our experiences, that our ensuring experience on working on the social and economic inclusion on the migrant artisans and the craftswomen in the European Union. Personally, it gave me an opportunity to use my theoretical knowledge in migration and gender studies to understand the realities of the migrant artisans, and also gave me an extensive hands-on experience. And now Shin will elaborate on our project with Nest and Women Forward International further.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, for your introduction. And now I will go into the part about specifically what we do in this project. So this is a joint project with Women Forward International, Nest, and also Sciences Po Paris, and we are exploring about ways how women's empowerment through craftswomanship, and our approaches can be described in three ways. So first one, we are doing the landscape mapping. That is to say, we are going to search out what organizations are actually providing this kind of arts workshop with women. What organizations are actually signing a social contract with a woman to help them to integrate into the craftswomanship, to integrate into this kind of work environment. And the second approach we are going to take is the surveys and interviews. So we have made surveys and we have carried out interviews with the organizations. Currently, we have already done interviews and surveys with Italian organizations, and in the next period of our project, we will do the interview and surveys with Greece and also with French organizations, and maybe also the UK organizations. And the third approach we are going to do is policy recommendations. So from what I've seen of these organizations, they are actually quite small in size and may require more funding, more personnel, and more machine to help them grow. And we will think about how to use policies as a tool to help these organizations to become more and more influential. And personally, I'm a student in the International Management Sustainability Program in Sciences Po Paris, and I'm a Chinese. So what impresses me in this program is that I actually meet someone who goes into the Europe for refugee purposes. Before I just read this story on news, but during my visit to these organizations, I actually saw this person face to face, and it was really an impression to me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jin and Shreya. Women Forward International gives opportunities to the next generation, students like Jin and Shreya, to make their research matter and to be of service to humanity. So we thank them for taking on this important work. And speaking of service to humanity, I'd like to turn to Rebecca Van Bergen to answer a very key question, and that is, what is the role of artisanship in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals?
That's a big question. So I hope my other panelists are going to chime in too. But I mean, I think from where we sit, I think that one of the things that we've really noticed over time is that artisanship and craftsmanship is what women are doing around the world, particularly in emerging markets. It's like, but because it's in the informal economy, it's largely untracked. And so there's the data around the numbers, we're always asked like, well, how many artisan workers are there? Like no one knows the answer to that because no one's paying attention or tracking it. And so, I think one of the challenges we've had as an organization, and where I think there's so much potential, is that there's been an increasing call from consumers, brands, industry on the importance of craftsmanship. And I think COVID kind of actually spurred this forward in some new ways. And so but it's unresearched and undocumented as of now. And so I think one of the exciting things that we see is that it has so much potential for gender equity and economic development, but that has not yet been realized. And so how do we really pull together a multilateral group of partners, service providers like Nest and Turquoise Mountain and others that can really help spur this forward, but also ensure that we have partners like the UN, corporations, government, and policy all kind of marching towards the same goal. And then I kind of touched on this, but after COVID, home-based work is just going to be more important for women globally than ever before. I mean, even with rates falling, there will be other pandemics. And I think we've seen firsthand how important and how resilient it is that women have the opportunity to work from home safely. And so ensuring that kind of models like craftsmanship are supported and the knowledge that we bring to the table in terms of safe working environments in the home, I think is outside of even craftsmanship, has so much potential for women globally.
Thank you, Rebecca. Does anyone else would like to chime in and answer to that question?
I'd like to echo what Rebecca was saying about the changing market, and in particular, I think also the opportunities that are opening up with technology, both in terms of developing more kind of technically focused access to market, also thinking about design, that the whole design and quality control process can now take place remotely, and that design ideas can be shared globally within seconds. So the whole design and product development process has really opened up, and I totally agree that COVID has, although presented such huge challenges, there has been this moment of opportunity that actually coming much more onto online platforms really is a new way and a very exciting way for home-based workers to access new markets, new design, and equally for buyers really to be able to track their products right back to the people that made them.
Great. If there are no further comments, I'm going to turn to a related question, and back to Talia and her colleague Miriam. And this is related, and I'm just wondering if you can tell us how supporting artisans goes beyond just economic empowerment. Why is this a question of justice?
So I'm going to answer from a more general perspective, which is that I think, as I said in the brief presentation, that good design, whether that's program design, whether that's production management, whether that's the design of products, brings an equality of access to global markets, and therefore can lead to a greater equality of access to economic and social well-being amongst the communities that we all seek to support. So I think from the general sort of perspective, I think that's how artisanship and design can really be fashioned to create that equal playing field. And Mariam, maybe you also have a perspective on that, particularly given recent events in Afghanistan. Mariam, you're on mute.
Yes, I am. Yeah, at this time, at this moment, this question is very relevant, especially for artisans in Afghanistan. So making sure that the female artisans have as much access to the programs as male artisans is very important for the continuity of their design and the crafts that they love. Also, their opportunity to the market, their equal opportunity in making sure that people are actually buying their products. That is the social justice that they will get out of the programs that we do, and it's important.
Yeah, and I think that's been the perception of what's going on in Afghanistan, that for us it's incredibly important that commercial buyers keep buying, and that the message is about continuing support of the women's communities, regardless of the change in leadership.
Would anyone else like to touch on this question?
If I could.
Yes, Ruth.
Yes. As I said in my presentation, one of the factors that we focus on in our program is the development and support for the whole woman. So as an artisan, many of them are also mothers, also live in violence-prone areas. So addressing those other needs and providing support in those areas, we see as so important in allowing them to develop their capacity as artisans, as businesswomen, but allowing them also a safe space to network. Alka, if you want to speak a little about what that has done for you. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Well, for me, it was a dream come true, because I was at home doing nothing, and then to get this opportunity to earn an income with doing project was my opportunity to uplift myself and make life better for me and my family. With the violence also going for the building, that is a Roseland Foundation, provided us a safe haven where we couldn't cross borders. So I was really happy that the Roseland Foundation provided this for us, that we could all come together as one from different communities, just to be as women in Jamaica.
Thank you, Alka. So it's really looking at providing them with the skills and then developing products that can help them generate the income that will give them that independence, but also as women providing the network, the safe space, and the information and support to help them as individuals as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for chiming in. Althea, I have a question for you. Could you tell us a little bit more about what this has enabled you to do with your life and your family? What has that extra income done for you?
Well, I suffer from poor blood circulation and so forth. So this was an opportunity for me. I was able to work, to stand, to get up, in the industry, but doing the crochet for myself, it offers some stability for me and my family. Understand? And not only that, it teaches us to make quality product. You have to have quality product for it to sell, to generate that proper income so that I could sustain myself and my family. And the other side of it also is that if we make sustaining good product, quality product, you could say, well, this is from Utterance, who is in Rollstone. You understand? And so it just enables you to have a sense of let's say it empower you to know that I did this. You understand? Worse if it's a quality product. And all the program it also teaches us about the quality product that we do, but it empowers you as individual also. Know the bloomers and the bloomers that we'll face and we will go to sell our products, but we will be up against, because there's discrimination a lot against women, some subtle and some open. So it even teaches us as women to have discussion and session during our question program how to deal with problems that arises like that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Althea. I'm sure that you are speaking for many women. If I could be bold enough to assume that, but it seems that it would be true. And now I'd like to turn to our Sciences Po team. This question is inspired by an article on the topic authored by Rebecca Van Bergen about how artisans offer lessons for us to reshape the post-COVID economy. And Rebecca has already mentioned ways this has been done. And I'd like to ask the Sciences Po team, what have you witnessed in your work that reflects the impact of artisanal work on the post-COVID economy and the remote work landscape? How has this new reality impacted the economic well-being of artisans, namely women? So I'll turn to Shin, Miao, and Shreya Nath, who traveled to Italy for their research with Women Forward International. Shin and Shreya.
Thank you again. It is very intriguing to understand how artisans and craftswomen have reacted to COVID. If I can build upon our experience in Italy, we understand that COVID or not, the artisans kept their work going, maintaining the government regulations because of the need for sustenance and other financial aid. It was really relieving actually to see these organizations in Italy who have been very accommodating and understanding with regards to the limitations of COVID and also the limitations of financial means for these artisan women. So talking about the organization in Bologna, we saw that the migrant women were coming from various parts of the world like Ukraine, Bangladesh. And they have been working in these organizations even during pandemic because the organizations gave them the opportunity to keep working and also additional child support. They gave them monthly sustenance so that they can provide for themselves and also their family to a large extent. And their artwork was also representative of the work that they have learned back in their home countries. And then they also had this opportunity to bring in their traditional art styles and blend that art with the Italian crafts. And we also found in our research that there is a good blend of both men and women representation in the artisans landscape. And however, there is of course the women more in these organizations, and they have been helping them with incorporating with documentation and also including them into the economy as much as possible. Now, Shane will elaborate more on the Roman organizations and how they have actually survived during COVID.
Thank you, Shreya. Okay, so I will move into the Rome organization here. So this organization is called Chlorage. So it actually helps fight the pandemic through craftswomanship. This is an organization, a very boutique organization in the clothing production based in Rome. And here we interview two Bangladesh women working with the organization. And what impressed us the most was that this organization was recognized for producing masks during the pandemic. As you can see, there is a newspaper report on the left of our slide, and this actually has very good social effect. It can actually see how migrants and refugee women can contribute to the local society, and at the other hand, it will also help these women these women to be accepted by the local people and help them to and make it easier for the migrant and refugee group to integrate this society. And we can even imagine that if there are more and more these organizations and these events happening in Europe, the European electors, the European citizens will actually understand how refugees and migrants can help build the European society, and it may even help to promote a more favorable immigration policy into these migrants and these refugees. And moreover, what we see is that this organization also has the emphasis on the sustainable production. For example, they use waste materials and they also buy textiles from Africa. And this idea of sustainability business, also about the idea of the central enterprises, is especially prominent in our research and in our interview, because we actually find the organizations may first start as organization but then move into a social enterprise. And here are some pictures we have seen. So the first picture is, you can see the woman working with the crafts, and the second picture in the left part of the slide is actually a craft it's actually a craft shop that is established by the migrants, and the picture on the right of the slide is actually the production of a tolerash. And we actually find this kind of interaction is meaningful. For example, for the migrant women, when they first come into the European land, they may actually not really have many acquaintance, and they may not have connection with local people, but they prefer to stay in their own original community. But with the help of the craftswoman, they start to work and they start to know more people, and it is also possible that the craftswoman organizations host a language workshop accompanied with the craft workshop to help the migrants to learn about the local languages. So I would say the empowerment through craftswomanship is not only just economic empowerment, but it also helps the social integration. It also helps the connection, helps with the languages, and it may also help with fighting the pandemic in Europe.
Wow, Shin and Shreya, these are incredibly important points. I'm going to throw Shin and Shreya a question that they weren't prepared for. It's a little bit of spontaneity here, and that is, how has this project impacted your life and what you want to do with your life, your career? What do you think of all this?
If I can go, I feel like this project has given a face to the migrant women and the artisans who have been working in this organization. And when we are researching, we are working on a desk, and it's all figures, it's all numbers, and they don't have a face value unless we go there and have a field experience and have a real life experience where we get to see them in person. We can engage in their craft work and understand how they have lived, and learning from the lived experiences, we can understand how they have been struggling and how they have improved their lifestyle. And it is really inspiring to know their stories. And personally, I feel like because my specialty is in gender studies and migration, I would most likely going to continue working on similar research projects where I get to meet more of these women and not just have a total desk work, but also field experiences. And it has been really enthralling and very thoughtful working. And yes, I thank you to both the Women Forward International and Nest for this amazing opportunity.
Thank you, Shreya. Shin, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, so I would like to share in a more personal perspective of this project. So yeah, so for me, it's like I was living in China for the 18 years, and after that I come to Singapore to do my bachelor, and then I come here to do my master. And what impresses me in this project is I really look at the diversity of the of different people, because I actually don't really have connection with the refugee communities before in my real life. So I may read them on the newspaper, I may read them on the website, but I have never, but maybe I do not really see them and or even talk with them. So and I would like to say this project gives me the chance to really know about the migrant community and to really talk with them and to really know about what their life stories are. And I would say I'm impressed by the diversity of the human lives and the diversity of choice. For example, there are migrants there are refugees who come into Europe and then going to the European education system after many years and now maybe have a contract or try to stay here. So it takes a very long range of time. And this kind of life trajectory was not actually seen by me before, and perhaps I think many of the European people may also don't know about this. But thanks for this project, I actually know about. Okay, so in this world there is a group of refugees, and they choose this kind of life trajectory. So I would really like to say, what impresses me most is the diversity of different lives and the diversity of the life trajectories.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We at Women Forward really are inspired by the next generation of leaders, and it's students like you and all of our student teams around the world who are going through this transformative experience through their projects that makes everything worthwhile. And now I'm going to turn to Ruth Jenke and Althea Ramsey for what might be our final question, and that is, how can consumers, corporations, and nonprofits work together to minimize the exploitation of artisans and support a more ethical, equitable, and sustainable path forward in the industry? Ruth and Althea. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Right. So the question here is with regards to how can you just repeat for me?
Yes. How can consumers, corporations, nonprofits, all these different entities come together to minimize exploitation of artisans and also support a more ethical, equitable, sustainable path forward in the industry? And I pose this to you, Ruth and Althea, and then others can chime in should they wish.
Well, one of the things that we've noted throughout the discussion and in terms of the challenges that are faced, in terms of having materials that last, the disposability, I think, is a major challenge to all of us. We see it here in terms of the number of dump heaps of clothes. There's actually a gentleman on Maxfield Avenue that collects clothes and just cuts them up to give people who work in mechanics and what have you to clean up. So we know that that is a major challenge. So one of the things is to educate consumers to really invest in things that will last. And that we know is a challenge, because cheap is easy, but then it doesn't last and you end up spending more. So education for consumers in terms of investing in things that have a lifetime. Corporations, for us, our link with corporations is in terms of support. So encouraging corporations to recognize their corporate social responsibility and to invest in supporting those programs and projects that contribute to addressing this particular area of concern. And something I mentioned in my presentation in terms of partnerships, the importance of sharing information, because quite often people want to do the right thing, they want to help, but they don't know how. So being able to provide information, social media is an important tool there to let people know what is available, what is going on, and how people can work towards that whole issue of sustainability. I think, Althea, you had mentioned about our products being strong.
Being durable, of good quality products. Making quality products that will catch the eye of the buyer or the consumer. Quality products. That's for one. And after making quality products, the private sector, they could also come into and help us in some way or form.
I would mention here that we're new, so we don't have a lot of products. We're getting to that point, but we have actually begun making and building a network. So one of the largest hotel chains in Jamaica and the Caribbean has actually indicated a willingness, if we have the right product, to carry it in their gift shops, to have it as a kind of grab and go. So having something that's easy to move with, not too costly, but not a cheap throwaway item. So it's to come up with the right kinds of products that we can tap in to these sources to get them out to the wider community.
That's amazing, Ruth and Althea. Thank you so much. You're doing such inspiring work in uncharted waters in Rosetown, Jamaica, where we know that this will benefit so many women in your community. So thank you. Would anyone else like to answer that question?
And I'll just add in and build on like the incredible work that the Science Pro team has been doing with Nest. But I think, the artisan sector is so unique in that like women carry their skills with them wherever we go. And, when we started the program, which is focused on kind of mapping organizations throughout Europe that are supporting immigrant and refugee women, the war in Ukraine had not broken out. And so I think it's been a really incredible time for us and for the students to see the importance of their work almost in a new and more urgent light, and really understanding that Ukraine has a long tradition of craft, as do most countries in the world, and a lot of the women that are arriving to Europe carry those skills with them. And so really encouraging people to understand the prevalence of craft in our daily lives, and how they can support women all over the world, but also looking towards kind of current events and women who have been displaced. There's, I know, a lot of movements around supporting Ukrainian crafts women right now, whether they're in Poland or elsewhere in Europe. So the craft sector is just really unique in how prevalent it is all over the world, even in war and poverty and displacement. And so we're excited about the work that they've been doing.
Wonderful. And thank you so much, Rebecca, for leading this project. It's an amazing and very important path forward for your work in Europe, and especially right now with what's happening in Ukraine. I want to ask one last question to the group, and then we'll turn to the audience. And this might just be something to ponder, and we'll open it up to the audience as well. As we know, beauty, love, and joy play a role in art and fashion. Do you think the world is turning towards a new way of working in which there is a spontaneous interest in doing things for the sake of love, beauty, and joy? Would anyone like to take that on? Or should we?
I'll answer that quickly. Sorry. I think absolutely. I think one of the questions I'm like often asked in panels or interviews is about the emergence of technology and whether that's going to like put artisan out of work forever. And I think that like the exact opposite has been true, that the more automated and robotic the world becomes, the more we crave authentic, genuine human built things. And so I think we've been really excited to see that the rise in interest in handcraft has really been in parallel and accelerating at the same pace as an interest in technology and robotics. And so I think just more to come.
Lovely. Well, unless any others, please feel free. Yes.
Just a quick word. Technology, yes, and I think the pandemic has caused many of us to look more closely at what is really important. And therefore, the whole issue of whether it's how your time is spent, what you surround yourself with, all of these things, many of us are taking a closer look at. And that would also contribute to an increase in, well, we've seen an increase in more people going into small business, leaving the corporate world to make jams or to, do what has their passion. So I think the epidemic has had that impact as well, that people are focusing more on where they can find the beauty and joy and love that will have an impact on their lives. So I think the pandemic has certainly impacted on that as well.
Absolutely. If others would like to chime in, otherwise, yes.
I Yes, I will. If I can chip in a little from our experience, we found that the people who are working in Italian organizations, even if predominantly they may have joined because of their need, what was very exciting to see that these people truly enjoy the artwork. They are able to connect their native art and culture they bring from their old homes and countries, and incorporate this new their old art with the new art of the Italian art and craft style, and they find joy in reliving their old cultures through this kind of art form. And this has also given rise to a modern craft work that is very beautiful, and it's a very beautiful amalgamation of this modernity and traditional art. And at least from Bangladeshi women, we realize that they relive their old learnings that they had as child, handprint and anything else, and they actually enjoy the artwork, and they just don't do it for the need of it.
I think we see something very similar in our work. I suppose in terms of local communities, the sense of place that the handmade artwork or handmade product has is really a very powerful kind of message. And I think that is also not just about local communities, it's also an international sharing of humanity, that a piece that is made by an artisan in Afghanistan or Myanmar has something of that person in it, in the skill and the time that they put into making it. And there's something completely uniting about that on a global level. I think you can never really replace that with technology. So yes, absolutely echoing everything that everyone has said in answer to that question.
Beautiful. Well, I wanted to introduce my colleagues, Wesley Spencer, our Director of Arts Partnerships, and Dania Abdullah, our Program Officer, who are going to finish off this event with any questions that come in from our audience and their own questions. Wesley and Dania.
Hi, everyone. This has been such an enlightening conversation, and it's just so beautiful and amazing to hear everyone's perspectives. I think one question that we feel would be important to address, on the consumer side, especially in thinking about large retailers and, how sometimes we as consumers just go and we buy the products that we like and not really think about the implications it has and how it affects the people that are actually making them. And so our question is, as consumers, what should we be aware of when looking to buy from brands that are working with small artisan groups? Are there specific ethical standards or specific markers that we should be looking at when we're purchasing these items to make sure that they're actually benefiting the artisans and not just, branding, for example?
We wrote one. So definitely look for Nest standard. And it does carry a consumer facing seal, but I also think just looking for third party participation is always good. Like if it was made in partnership with Turquoise Mountain, it will say that. And if it was done ethically with Turquoise Mountain, then Turquoise Mountain will be excited for it to say it. And if not, they probably won't. And so, so I definitely think looking for third party validation when you're working with a larger company is always really important to help kind of just ensure that it was done in a way that, external partners are excited to also be a part of the communication and story around.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons we work with Label Step, because it really helps to give that third party perspective on our practice, on the weaving practices, and really, ensure both from our perspective and also from the commercial perspective that there is full transparency across the supply chain. And that everything that is being done reaches those standards that are set out by Label Step. So I absolutely agree with everything that you've said.
Well, this has been an incredible panel. Yes, Dania.
Oh, I just wanted to pose one more question that came from the audience, and I just want to thank you to Rebecca and Talia for that answer. This is actually for Turquoise Mountain, so Talia and Mariam. Can Turquoise Mountain introduce their work with refugee artisans, especially in terms of sustainable development? And how has the change of the political situation impacted Afghan weavers?
So just to clarify, the weaving communities that we work with in Afghanistan are not refugees. They're in their home communities, communities that have existed for many generations. We do work with artisans who have left their own countries in our project in Jordan, where we work both with children's group outreach to the refugee camps in Jordan, and we also work with master artisans who've left Damascus and Aleppo and are now working in Amman. And really our main goal with them was to ensure that they had access to workshops, to equipment, that they re-met each other, because that's an incredibly important part of a sustainable supply chain and a sustainable artisan community, that it's not just an individual workshop or group, that it is a whole ecosystem that works, often different artisans or groups working with each other. So I think that sense of connection and the ability to get the right raw materials, equipment, and then of course onward access to markets and sustainable markets is really been our main focus with them. I'll speak very briefly about the Afghan weavers, and Mariam may want to add some more detail there. But really, I guess in a very practical sense, whilst the weavers have continued weaving almost without break during the change in the political situation, they continued their practice under the last Taliban times, and they have continued to do so. But of course, with the big political shift, a lot of the infrastructure was very challenged. So a lot of the working that the team has been doing on the ground has really been to re-establish export, to be able to get the carpets out of the country to international buyers, and to ensure, of course, that the banking systems, we can get money to the weavers. That was another huge challenge that a lot of the economy experienced. Mariam, I wonder if you have anything also to add on that.
Yeah, in continuation of what you said, the other good thing that in carpet industry is that in Afghanistan people work from home, so all the looms are at home, so people work within their families inside their houses, and therefore there hasn't been a break, because everybody just continued doing what they were used to do. And throughout the history in Afghanistan, whenever that there was a turmoil, when something that people were going to the outside the house stopped for some time, carpet just continued all throughout the history. And yeah, thankfully, we still continue doing that for that reason.
Wonderful. Well, I'm conscious of the hour. I want to thank our audience for joining us today, thank our panelists for their incredible work, thank our Women Forward International team, and thank everyone for ensuring that this creative force, primarily brought forward by women, is acknowledged, protected, and given fair compensation. Thank you again to our sponsors, including and especially the Roy Hunt Foundation, the Doris M. Carter Foundation, and the Hearts Path Foundation, and keeping your foothold and hand in hand, as our poet and partner from India, Manasi Pradhan says, we can build heaven on earth where the voice of compassion will glitter and goodness and fair play will reign wherever we are.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Rising from the fire of slumber, you are not born, you are not torn asunder, you are unwounded, you are unscarred. You make the world fragrant all the more. You shower flowers of love and affection on the way to your goal.
Ripping you apart, no one can crush you, nor injure your womanhood. Storm will pass by, you will emerge unarmed, unblemished, unlike the mighty Everest.
Look around, how the gutsy waves carry along bones and skeletons of the tormentors. No more shedding of tears, the auspicious hour has dawned. Come along, let's join hands and relish the glorious hour.
The time that stands changed, The air and water changed. No more desperation abounds. No one is helpless anymore. In torture and pain, no one weeps and sobs under the veil. We have rights from birth till death. None can snatch away. Stop trembling at the hint of an eye.
The energy of her inner self is no longer dormant. Flesh and blood, mind and heart are all alert. The sun of confidence has risen in her. See how the face dazzles. See how the sky, like heart, splashes with love. No one is meager here. Like the feeble creeper, don't hang on support in darkness. Stand tall on your feet in broad daylight.
The strong feet now possess power of 100 lionesses. It is not the time to go through any more torment, any more distress. No one fills the cup with the poison of hatred. Come together, come along.
Keeping foot on hold and hand on hand, we will build heaven on earth, where voice of compression will filter and goodness and fair play will reign. Wherever we are all dear, we are